The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Big Ben Haslar presiding. Well, as for the Honorable Judge Haslar. Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice, Hell on Reels. Today we're hearing the case of The People versus Trick or Treat, a 2007 anthology movie that chronicles the tales of horror that all intersect on Halloween night. Now in this spooky civil case, each counsel is appointed to represent one story from the film and will present their case as to why their client is the superior segment. And ultimately, the jury will render the verdict as to which story is the better one. This decision will hereby stand in all rankings and listicles from now on until the end of time ad infinitum. And since this is also Hell on Reels, the other segments will be condemned to movie hell, upon which this courthouse just so happens to be built.
Really unfortunate.
Mr. Jeremy Bates, you are appearing on behalf of the story Surprise Party. You may present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. This will be pretty brief because I think it's a closed win. What do they say? Closed.
Open and shut case.
All the other stories in this anthology were pretty predictable, I found, from the get-go. With this one, and it says it in the title, it's a surprise party, and you get surprised right at the end because I don't think you know where it's going until the end. I didn't, and it was a great twist. The other ones were, they were too easy to read. So I think this was an open and shut case, and that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Appearing on behalf of the story The Principal is Mr. Jason Parent. Please present your opening statement.
May it please the court. I don't know, should I say that?
Yes, you should.
Absolutely.
Yes, you should. Flattery will go everywhere.
Obviously, segmenting the stories in Trick or Treat is faux pas, if you will, but as the collection as a whole is what really rises this anthology above all others. But clearly there's one story that far surpasses all others. It's the first complete story of The Principal, and it really, unless you count the little vignette at the beginning that the whole movie circles back to, which doesn't hold a candle to any of these stories, really. No. Now there's things happening behind me. Anyway, sorry about that.
That's just the gates of hell. Just ignore it.
The ghosts agree with me. The Principal is the best story. I mean, as the burden of carrying the movie, pretty much, it sets the tone. It invests you, or fails to do so right off the bat. And if you carried on after watching the Principal story, then it obviously did its jobs. It's the only tale that really can be uniquely and completely told without the interaction of the others, and it doesn't it doesn't end there. I know you see the Principal later, but the jack-o'-lantern carving storyline does.
Objection. Can I object in the opening?
No. Your time is coming.
Hold it.
But moreover, it's clearly the funniest segment of the movie, and what might be lost on you is the fact that you're laughing along with a child murderer. So, I mean, just the fact that you're laughing and rooting for this most heinous criminal in perhaps all the world. I mean, maybe a baby rapist might be a little worse. Can I say that on
Please
it would be
do.
worse. We can agree there.
But this guy's pretty bad, and you love him, and you're watching him, and you're rooting for him, and you want him to cut that goddamn kid's head off and carve it up. End of story. And opening.
Thank you, Mr. Parent. And lastly, representing the story Sam is Mr. Maynard Bangs. Please present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have to agree, this is an open and shut case. You go and you look at the merchandise for Trick or Treat, and who is plastered over all of it? Sam. Sam is the iconic character that leaves you with the biggest impression when you walk out of this movie. Sam is transcends the series practically. I know they're working on a sequel. You know Sam's going to be it in the star. He haunts the entire movie. He is sprinkled throughout like razor blades in a child's candy bag. He's everywhere in this movie, and he witnesses almost everything. He is the spirit of Halloween. He's the spirit of children and trick-or-treating, of mischief. And just talking about that segment, he's got some of the best effects. It's a simple, contained little story. And I just think it's the one that sticks in everyone's mind, which is why that character Sam has gone on to transcend the entire film and enter into the public consciousness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bangs. Mr. Jeremy Bates, you may present your first exhibit, and you all may object away. But I am the traffic guard, so my word goes.
Okay. So
Objection.
Okay, let's hear your
I love it.
His story doesn't even really count, does it? I mean, come on. It's really between mine and Sam over here.
Objection is overruled. I would like to hear the case.
We do have a show to do, man.
Oh, sorry.
Overruled, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, first off, with the surprise me, we have to talk about the costumes, because Halloween's all about the costumes. And there's no doubt that the costumes that these girls wear in Surprise Me are way better than any of the other costumes, including a burlap, whatever the thing is, Sam's wearing over his head.
Objection, Your Honor. Those girls would look great in a burlap sack over their head.
Overruled, sir. No, I like them. I like them the way they are.
Lousy perfect judge.
Secondly, though, not to sort of women in this, like I was joking about that, but the women in this aren't just victims, and that's the problem I find with a lot of horror, is that the women, characters are always the ones who get knocked off first, or they're the weak ones, and because they can't, and often they do stupid things, like when the guy's dead on the floor, or you think Jason's dead on the floor, instead of cutting off his head, they'll just run away, and then he'll get up and follow them. They should just, get an axe and chop him into little bits. They don't do that, and it just makes sort of the female heroines or leads, or they're not really heroines in horror movies, but the female leads, weak. In this one, without giving away too much at this point,
You could spoil their whole thing. Spoilers
yes.
are
okay. Well, they're not, because they're werewolves, and they just rip to shreds the one guy who he's a vampire, pretends to be a vampire, who tries to eat them. So I think that's a really good twist, which goes along with the big twist that they're werewolves in the end. And it's, there's not just the girls are the ones being victimized, like back in the 80s, where all the horror movies like Slumber, Sleeper Party, Massacre, and I think even the original Trick or Treat, if you guys seen that back in 1987, there were a few pretty weak females in that too. So I thought that was a good twist. And that's my first, that's my point.
I have to object here, I think. Objection. I agree with almost everything you said until the scene devolves into a Marilyn Manson Sweet Dreams, softcore porn ending. That is not very feminist and our pro strong female characters, I think, at the end. I like titty shots as much as the next guy, don't get me wrong.
I'm the next guy.
But
Kieran, would you have a rebuttal to that?
Yeah, the rebuttal is just that I know recently Marilyn Manson has been accused of a lot of bad stuff against women, when this movie was made, I think back in 2007, he wasn't. So I think the music was a bit more appropriate then than it might be now. But it's funny, Jason, you mentioned that because Mr. Parent, because when I was watching and I heard Marilyn Manson come on, I was thinking, yeah, this is probably not a good.
Not the whole series case though. The dialogue going into it was genius, where with all the sexual innuendos when they're really talking about eating their victim.
But whose side are you on?
I'd like to make an objection to that point that Mr. Parent raises about this segment. I like puns and double entendre as much as the next guy. But to counter the point that Jeremy brought up in his introduction, saying that the other segments were predictable, surprise party had this twist that you didn't see coming. I disagree. I think they super telegraphed the twist. Especially upon a second viewing, it really gives it away. But as if Little Red Riding Hood wasn't enough setting it up, Sheep's Meadow,
Huff and Puff.
The Runt of the Litter. And then you have the howl that is done in the school bus segment, where, Rhonda says werewolves. So if you were thinking it was anything else, now you know they're going to be werewolves. And from that point on, I mean, she hasn't even been chased in the woods yet. You're just, they're going to be werewolves and you're just waiting for it to happen. So
question from the bench, Mr. Maynard, on the first time you saw this, did you see it coming or was it just the rewatch that you're getting this?
I figured they were vampires, werewolves, or cannibals up to the Rhonda line where she said werewolves, and then I went, oh, Little Red Riding, yes, obviously. So I really think it's that line that Rhonda does in the school bus one that fully telegraphs it.
But did you
may respond? Yes.
Can I have respond?
Sure.
And that's fair enough because I yes, on my watching, because I watched it the second time. But most people watching this are not going to pick up on those little clues. The general audience are not, and I don't think the director, when he made it, he might have been a bit heavy-handed in putting all these things in, but because most people sitting down with stuffing their face with popcorn are not going to be thinking the way you're thinking. So it's a popcorn film.
That's true. The first time I watched it, I was carving a jack-o'-lantern, so I didn't see it. My eyes were off the screen.
But I do want to, heavy-handed was the word I was thinking earlier. It's just a little bit too spice. One or two wouldn't have been so bad. My favorite one, which is only effective the second time, Your Honor, is I ate some bad Mexican. And that's my favorite one, which only plays the second time you see it. But I think that a lot of like the Little Red Riding Hood and Run to the Litter does kind of telegraph it too much.
Okay. We'll let the jury chew on that. Jeremy Bates, did you have any last exhibits in support of your story?
No, I think that's fine for now. I'll let you guys move on with it.
Very well. Then we will pass it on to Mr. Jason Parent. Sorry.
I think it's singular, one parent, right?
We will pass it on to Mr. Jason Parent. Please present your first exhibit in saying that the principal is the best story of the bunch.
Well, first I'll start with the acting. Dylan Baker is the star of the scene and outclasses. I'm a big fan of Brian Cox. Succession's a great show, and he does great. But I don't think he's anything great here. At least the wheezing was a bit much. I don't know, but
he wasn't acting.
Oh, boo!
No, I'll hold you in contempt with one more outburst like that, Mr. Banks.
Dylan Baker was just perfect all the way through, and Thurman Merman. I mean, come on. I don't know the kid's name, but I mean, Thurman Merman from Bad Santa. The guy is a holiday stud. He's going around smashing pumpkins. He is one of the most unfortunate looking people that you probably have met. And if you saw him on the street smashing pumpkins, you probably want to kill him. So, I mean, let's just root for this guy killing him. Sure, why not? You got another cute little kid screaming. Oh, he's adding comedy. He's cute. And you know what? That's the real exhibit here. It's a heartwarming father-son tale where this father, you think, oh, yeah, you see him with a knife. He's a little bitchy. Okay, maybe he killed his wife, whatever, oh, he killed the kid's mother. Maybe, I don't know. We don't know who that body is in the grave, right? We can assume. But also, while I'm at it, I know this is a digression, but who had the most kills in this film?
The werewolf people, I would say.
They had bodies. all
Oh
over.
Individually?
no, the
Some of
school,
them are
the
in
school,
literal people off screen.
the school zombies, school bus zombies for sure. They killed all 3 kids.
Yeah, but the
Uh,
werewolves had like 10 bodies around them.
But
Yeah,
the
but
werewolves,
that's each person. So
objection. Yeah, I'm counting one person per kill.
well, the principal only has
No,
the principal has
we'll
the
go per
princi-
story per body count.
The principal's got 2
come
then.
on.
Principal's got 2 then.
Well, he has a third body in the grave.
I thought that's Thurman Merman.
No, he has a clown hand. It's the clown kid.
Oh, it's some clown kid. All right.
Yeah, Merman didn't have his head. He wasn't grabbing anyone.
You're right.
Well, anyway, heartwarming tale. You got a father's son sharing a Halloween tradition. What could be more beautiful than that? And it ends with 2 great lines. Well, there's Charlie Brown is an asshole, which is just a great random line. And
It's true.
don't forget to help me with the eyes. I mean, come on. That was a beautifully delivered line by a kid that's going to grow up probably tormented and have PTSD, but a great kid actor nonetheless.
I mean, objection. Charlie
Yeah,
Brown is an asshole in the Christmas special, but Linus is the asshole in the Halloween special. Just saying.
That objection is overruled. We'll stick
What?
strictly to the facts presented in each story, which in this case is the Halloween story for Charlie Brown.
I want to talk about rooting for. Because I don't think you root for the principal once you know his intentions. I think that you certainly dislike the kid, but talking about poisoning and murdering the kid that takes a few too many pieces of candy and smashes a few pumpkins, they're not even misdemeanors. And we're going to murder the kid for him just because he's a little unfortunate looking. I think there's the switcheroo, right? He becomes the villain of the story and he's funny doing it, but I don't think the audience is rooting for the principal once they know who he really is.
A little unfortunate looking, a little bit. Okay. That's an understatement. First of all, the kid is very unfortunate looking and he deserved to die. I don't know what morals this
I don't want to live in a world where ugly people are executed.
No, you do not.
Oh.
It wasn't that he was ugly. It was just that he had that look of being a total dick prick kid.
Mhm.
And that's what it was. That's why they casted him. Because
He's
he was that
selfish.
yeah, he was just.
And now we all agree. Thank you.
Well,
Exactly
he's-
what I'm saying.
He's selfish, but I don't think at any point does that make the actions of the principal sympathetic or justified. I think he still leaves as a bad guy. You think he's going to murder his son all the way up to the last moment, believably, because you presume he murdered, you said, like you presume he did murder the wife. And then that again, that's the twist at the end that he didn't. The kid's in on it with him. But he leaves that kid alone home with no babysitter.
Ooh.
Okay.
Well,
We'll
actually,
let
the
the
kid would
jury
actually-
chew on those points. I'd like to ask
Bad
Mr. Ward if he
parenting.
has any further exhibits in support of the principal.
Yeah, Dylan Baker is also the lizard. At least he's
That's
still
true.
lizard to me. So therefore that makes it cool. That's it.
He's dismissed.
Not yet.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Perry. And lastly, Mr. Maynard Bangs, present your first exhibit in defense of Sam.
As I kind of mentioned, Sam is the standout story of this movie, and for a reason. As a monster design, it is really excellent. You've got the little dirty pajamas, the little burlap sack. So he's like a throwback Halloween costume from maybe 100 years before. And yet there's so much more to him. It turns out he's some sort of pumpkin demon, because when you pull the bag off, he has this awesome design head. And let's talk about like practical effects. You've got some CGI stuff in the werewolf one. There is some practical effects in the principal, but they're not accomplishing the things that the practical effects are accomplished in Sam. Sam is a well-realized creature. I don't know if it's animatronic or something. It looks extremely realistic when it's moving and moving its little pumpkin head. It's unkillable, right? They shoot it. So he's got all that Michael Myers quality, but he's adorable. He's this little kid. He's got a butt flap, little PJs, and they're adorable. So monster design, iconic creature. Sam is a head and tails, not only of this movie, but probably one of the best designed monsters in the past 20 years, maybe 30.
Objection, hyperbole.
Sustained. We'll let the jury decide.
I said one of the best.
One of the best out of like 1,000. He's in there.
I think earlier it was mentioned that the principal was this self-contained story, and I don't think you get the payoff of the principal without the surprise party, right? You need to know he's going to get eaten by the werewolf to get his comeuppance, which is also, you didn't realize, the comeuppance for the vampire killer. So the principal and his storyline, even as the vampire killer on the streets, leans heavily on surprise party, whereas Sam, he simply appears throughout several of the others, but his story bookends the two films. He's got the final standoff with Brian Cox. He's also got the kill with the woman in the beginning, and they're very self-contained. If you removed a lot of the other stories, you wouldn't really lose a lot of the Sam story. And his little story that we do see at the end establishes his rules as a monster. We love to talk about monsters need rules. It's important to know your rules. And that's the twist ending of the Sam story, right? You don't really know throughout the movie that if you give Sam candy as an adult, that he won't kill you. He goes trick-or-treating. We see people give him candy, but you don't know that if Brian Cox could somehow get to that candy bar and give it to Sam, he's going to be saved. And so I think that is a great little surprise. It's not huge, but it's nice to know Sam has morals as a monster. And it's important for monsters to have rules. Otherwise, they're undefeatable. And along with not taking down your decorations, this great lore is built up in Sam. And it doesn't even take a whole 2-hour movie. He maybe has 30 minutes of screen time, and this beautiful picture of this great evil spirit of trick-or-treating is created.
I'd say objection, because they create a lore by stealing from other lores.
Oh,
so, I mean, they shoot off his hand, the hand running around. We got idle hands. You got
nobody's ripping off idle hands. Evil Dead maybe, but no.
Okay, Evil Dead. Okay, well, okay. What about the whole Achilles tendons cutscene? Sometimes dead is better. Anybody see Pet Cemetery? Been done
Yeah,
exactly the same way too.
Is that an homage though?
could be an homage.
Was
I don't think any film owns Achilles heel tendon cutting. I just think that's a major artery to harm, and I just don't think anyone can call dibs on that. But let's talk about what they don't rip off. All of them use knives. They use machetes. Nobody's using a killer lollipop with the bite out of it. It makes a great prop. You can buy one.
You can't.
You can't, but a demonic entity, you don't know what that lollipop's made of. Potentially it's made of candy. It's certainly made of evil. And he is able to bite it into such a hardened, sharp shape that it can rip and kill and stab. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful prop.
This is going to hurt me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
I actually love Sam. So, Chucky.
Oh, you won one person over, Mr. Banks.
It's not too late to switch sides, Jason.
Chucky.
Unfortunately, he's not in the jury, so you still have to win them.
Small monstrous creatures, Chucky, Ghoulies. I'm gonna go weirder on this one. Munchies.
What about Critters?
I mean, come on. Troll?
What about Critters?
Critters,
Critters is one of the best. You just have to glue some hair onto a dodgeball and roll them across the ground. It's awesome. But Your Honor, apart from that, yes, Brian Cox delivers a great performance. You get the great callback, which was introduced in the principal, but you get to see the other perspective of it. So there's a little foreshadowing earlier in the movie about what's going to happen to Cox. He's that grumpy guy who keeps all his lights on Halloween and doesn't want to open the door and answer anybody and wants to chase away and scare kids. And you kind of want to see him to get his comeuppance, but it's nice that he doesn't actually get murdered, because while those things are rude, while smashing pumpkins and all that is rude, I don't think it deserves murder. So that's why it's nice that Brian Cox actually gets spared at the end by Sam. Not necessarily spared altogether, because we have the callback from the school bus where it turns out Brian Cox is an even worse guy than we ever thought. And get some comeuppance from other characters in the fourth story that we didn't talk about. But that's because Sam is really the standout one. And if I'm going for number 2, it's the school bus one. School bus is the second best one. So, but with that, Your Honor, I'll rest my case.
All right. All sides have rested their cases. Now the attorneys will present their closing arguments. Mr. Bates, you may begin.
Okay. Well, just so as my closing, just to get rid of a few of the stereotypes. There's too many, Halloween movie stories or whatever where people get poisoned by cyanide in the candy. That's just a bit of lazy writing, I found. And it didn't, when I saw that, I was sort of rolling my eyes a little bit. I wasn't too happy with that. With regard to Sam, I did like how he did appear throughout the stories. But that has been done again too. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, Your Honor, back in the 80s, there was a TV show on Showtime called The Hitchhiker, where there was this hitchhiker who would narrate the stories, and he'd always be in the back, and it was from his point of view. That was cool because that was the 80s. This is 2007 or 2007. And it feels like it was ripping it off a little bit. It wasn't anything new for me. Like this kid appearing in all of them, it was a bit gimmicky, I thought. And now, with regard to the story I'm representing, surprised me. Look, I think the best thing about this story, which I think the jury, you have to remember, is that just every werewolf story you've seen before, the werewolves, they metamorphose, they change, and they just become these hulking beasts. But what do they forget? They always forget to take off their clothes, because their clothes they're going to get ripped off, and then they're going to have to go out and buy new clothes the next day. If you're a werewolf and you're changing on the full moon, you're going to have to buy new clothes, because if it just doesn't make sense. These girls, they took off their clothes before they changed. They started, unstrapping their bras and doing the whole thing. Like, that works with horror, that works with reality. That just sort of like, I thought that made the story. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a nice little touch. So so I will close on that werewolves should definitely take off their clothes before they change into walking beasts.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. I think you definitely won over Mr. Schlender with that last argument there. Mr. Parent, you may present your closing argument.
Werewolves, come on. Ginger snaps, the howling, they're
Mhm.
both far superior to that. And what werewolves? What story in this whole anthology really didn't have that Halloween element? Okay, the Halloween party did, but werewolves, what's Halloween about werewolves? Nothing. Don't get me started on werewolves. Not even a consideration. So anyway, Sam shows up throughout the movie, and he gets an unfair advantage there. I think I would ask the court not to consider Sam's other appearances throughout the movie, because we were asked to look at the individual stories for each one. I think he even got an advantage. He's saying there's 2 stories. He's counting the vignette at the beginning too. I mean, come on. I think it should be limited to the Brian Cox appearance. But anyway,
That's true. There's no 3-act structure with him showing up at the beginning.
There's still no comparison to the principal story. I mean, we had a range of emotions from, thriller, suspense, happiness, and even the heartwarming touching at the end with the father and son bonding. The other ones are all flat emotional stories. This one had everything. It also had, like I said, Thurman Merman and Dylan Baker, two fabulous actors. Sorry, I can't even say that with a straight face about them. All right, well, Dylan Baker's acting was great. And the other kid died well. And it showed you act like he wasn't punished for killing this kid. You try to carry it around that fat kid. You saw his efforts, all the hardships he had to go through because he killed that kid. And then he made a nice reward out of it for his son. So perfect story. There's no debate, I think. Can I drop a mic? I don't know. You do that.
Oh no,
Please don't.
Yeah, please don't. Expensive.
We were not very well funded here at the Reels. Thank you. And Mr. Bangs, you may present your closing argument.
It's because we spent all that money on that hell door.
It's very important.
Just to respond to some of the things we've heard here last minute, I do like the werewolf change that they do here. It's cool that they pull their skin off, but what do they have to do at the end of that? Do they have to start sliding their skin back on like gloves? Or can they start pulling the fur off and there's more human flesh underneath? That's what I want to know a little bit more about. I have a lot of questions.
Tune in for the sequel.
Exactly. And then in response to the idea that the Sam stories are bifurcated, they bookend, but they're the same story. All these stories are split up. The principal is interspersed in the beginning with all of the surprise party stuff, and then as he goes on as a vampire, that's split up, and then his just desserts he gets later is also one. So I count all these stories are intermingled and interspliced. But they are arcs, and so we're looking at the arcs, and the arc of the principal goes throughout the film, and the arc of Sam goes throughout the film. And yeah, him just sitting around, that's just a cute little Easter egg little thing to keep seeing Sam, even though he's menacing. But the werewolves love him. And if the werewolves want to hang out and party with Sam, why wouldn't everybody? And he doesn't hurt Rhonda, which is great. So he's like us. We like Rhonda. Sam likes Rhonda. We like Sam. So just a reminder, he's got the best effects of any of this. He's the most iconic character in the whole movie, which is why he's entered the zeitgeist, the cultural zeitgeist. You can go to Spirit Halloween and get an awesome little Sam costume for your 6-year-old kid and take him out around. He gets a little lollipop. I recommend you do it. It's adorable. I think it has a great, satisfying kind of twist ending with the not killing Cox, which is kind of follow up with Cox's eventual death. But it's a nice little self-contained story in its own right. Sam could have a whole feature-length film, but the fact that he got just this little vignette, he uses a lot with his time.
Thank you all. Members of the jury, the prosecutors are all out of candy to give out. Mr. Big Ben Haslar, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, and Mr. Charlie Brown is an asshole, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. Now it's up to you to determine which story is superior. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict. Do you suppose ghosts go trick-or-treating on streets that are dead ends?
Oh, boo, bailiff, come on.
Get that from a popsicle stick.
All right, so new format here. We had 3 different presentations, all from the same movie. I personally, I absolutely adore this movie. I love it a lot. I watch it every year. My son actually did fall in love with the Sam costume, so we actually got him one. He hasn't watched the movie yet, so he's going to be Sam for Halloween, and it's going to be pretty sweet. So Ryan Luis Rodriguez, what are you thinking based on the 3 cases we heard today?
Well, my favorite segment is School Bus. So it's kind of weird that we didn't actually get to talk about it because Rhonda, I absolutely adore Rhonda. I always have to support my fellow neurodivergents. But in terms of what we actually got, I think the strongest case by far is Sam. Easily that wins in terms of just which case is stronger. I prefer Surprise Party out of all 3. But Sam is the one. I mean, that's hard to beat. But I want to hear what you guys have to say.
What are you thinking, Big Ben?
I'm thinking we should go for a 3-way tie, or maybe Ryan should convince us that School Bus is better. Go out so everyone loses. I don't know. I kind of like all of the stories equally when I'm watching them. So I do agree that Sam is the most iconic of the bunch, and he's on the poster. You see him everywhere. I don't know that the story is the best, though. I mean, it is good, but if it were to be stretched out to a 2-hour movie like Mr. Maynard suggested, I'm not sure that it would hold up, because he really is just sort of a short and sweet little concept.
He's a little fun-sized monster.
Whereas the others, they're more complete stories. At least they feel that way to me, although I do love Sam and I do love Brian Cox. I did not see the Surprise Party twist coming, and I think that it sort of has that fun, sort of malignant sort of thing. Like once you do know the twist, then all the jokes and stuff that they like sort of drop kind of make it more fun when you're watching it a second time.
Yeah, Surprise Party definitely benefits the most from a rewatch, I would say. But to talk about the principal for a moment, I thought Jason did a very good job of presenting the case, and I really agreed with a lot of the stuff he was saying about the emotional depth that you get from Dylan Baker, like the perfect casting. I mean, the son was really good. Like, he was just annoying enough, but not grating. The kid that he kills at the beginning by feeding him the poison candy. I mean, the reason like that one kind of has to happen on Halloween, right? Like that's the only way that story works. You know, the werewolf one could happen almost any time of year. I mean, they could make up an excuse for any party. And obviously Sam, he's Halloween embodied. Yeah, incarnate. That's the word I'm looking for. He's Halloween incarnate, so I guess that does have to happen on Halloween. But you
It
can
doesn't
tell
make the wolf one more less than a Halloween.
no, but like you
Okay,
could tell a
watch
story about a creepy little demon running around a house trying to kill a guy. So I'm kind of leaning towards the principle right now, just because I liked a lot of it. You know, like it was scary, it was funny, it was kind of everything that this movie is all about, and I think it does do a very good job of setting the tone.
It is going to be a three-way tie.
It's going to be a three-way tie.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Well, the judge comes in and says which one's the worst, which, hey, he just happens to be my identical twin.
Well, there is one other story everybody's forgetting, and that's about Coach Trevor over in a hot dog costume who was having sex with somebody at that party. I'd like to know what was going on there.
I mean, I think you just described it, but also you can't be in the jury room. I'm sorry.
He dies in the surprise party. You can see the hot dog costume.
There's the hot dog costume. Yeah. We're all looking for who did this. All right. So if we want to start locking in some answers, maybe, Ryan, what are you thinking?
Sam. Without
All
a
right.
doubt, Sam.
Big Ben?
Gosh, I'd like to do Sam, but it's really just because of the costume. I mean, and the feel that has as a story, which is the question, which is the better story. I'm not sure that it's there.
See, that's what I agree with. Like, I do love everything about Sam. I'd be excited for a Sam-centric movie, and he does a great job of weaving in throughout the whole thing, like everyone said it admitted to. But I think if we're looking at the strongest story coupled with a good case behind it, I think the principle would be the way to go, Ben. So come on.
Hey.
I'm just saying.
I think Surprise Party had a good case too, because I really do agree with
That's
the
true.
fact that it's more rewatchable.
And just very good practical effects in this movie. Just taking a minute. Maynard mentioned the CGI. There actually wasn't CGI in that. That was all practical effects.
That makes it even more
Her
impressive.
spine grows like that at the inner werewolf transformation without CGI.
Hey, that's what the IMDb
I'm gonna make our
says.
job hard. I'm going for Surprise Party.
You're going for Surprise Party? Really?
Yeah, I am.
Oh my God. In the interest of moving things along, I will also vote for Surprise Party.
Oh, okay.
We don't want to have a three-way tie in our first triple threat.
Well, then
what
just
would
put the
we
school
do if
open.
I said the principal? I mean, think about it.
Why don't you guys pick? I don't know. What if you picked a second favorite? I don't know how you would break, because obviously Dylan was been trying to get the
My
principal
second
the whole
favorite
time.
would then be the principal. Well, I don't know.
Wow. No.
Really are all good. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
no, that
No.
it is all very good.
I mean, I'll send them all to hell if you want. I'm good with it.
That would be funny. I mean, you all refuse to give up. I'm like, no, mine's the best, and then Alpha goes to hell. Yeah, no, I'm going Surprise Party. Mr. Schlender, lock in your vote.
Geez, I really do want to lock in the principal, just because I think it really hit the nail on the head for everything it was going for. I mean, Surprise Party did as well, holds up very well.
If
on a
you do the
rewatch.
principal and then everyone picks their second favorite, then I mean, we know Ben also liked the principal and stuff, and so
Okay.
I don't think you're going to get a second three-way tie after that. I don't know.
Okay. So then my second is for the principal. Ryan?
Sam.
No,
You
your
already
second
said
favorite.
Sam. His second favorite.
Sam is my second favorite because the school bus is my first favorite. So
Then what's your third favorite?
Oh, geez,
my
right.
third favorite, Surprise Party.
Okay. And Mr. Schlender?
Yeah, Surprise Party would have been my second pick.
All right.
So
then that's
I
the
guess-
one that wins.
Guess we go with Surprise Party. Let's go out there and tell
Very
that.
down the line.
Yeah, right. Let's go out there and tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor, in the case of the people versus Trick or Treat, we find in favor of Surprise Party.
Oh,
The verdict is so rendered.
Boo!
Surprise Party is hereby declared the superior segment of Trick or Treat. Therefore, the other two segments will be sentenced to movie hell, where they'll be straddled by beautiful young women, and the movie will be about 20 minutes long. Court is adjourned.
This is Mumbly Mumberson
Good call.
reporting to you live from outside the rails of justice. Jeremy Bates, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict, as if I care?
Absolutely 100% the correct verdict. There was no doubt in my mind, and I think when anybody watches this film, they'll come to the same conclusion.
Thank you, I disagree. And here comes Rob Maynard. Excuse me, can we get a word on how you feel about today's verdict? Ask nobody.
You know, the term miscarriage of justice is thrown around a lot these days. And
Usually by us.
allow me to add to it, because this was a complete miscarriage of justice. Sam, clearly the best one. No, there's no story. A guy chasing around someone trying to kill them is the story. That's the story we want to see. And it was clearly superior. There was definitely CGI in those werewolves. I call shenanigans on IMDb. There's no practical effects of making their ribs pop up like that on her back. So a complete miscarriage of justice. I don't appreciate it, but the principle at least was funny. But anyway, very disappointed, especially that the judge didn't read the verdict right.
The judge had to do it on the fly, okay?
Oh, it must be difficult to do something on the fly, Your Honor.
Fair point, fair point.
Thank you. And Jason Parent, how did this verdict strike you or whatever?
Yeah, I don't even know if I can voice my disappointment with the obviously male jury that obviously was all about the TNA scene in this film. And well, you're discussing. You're discussing myself.
He's
You
right.
nailed him. He just met you and he knows you already.
Thank you very much. Thanks for stealing my line. That's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis. As pointless as all life is.
Poor Mumbly. Mumbly was dressed up as Sam, though. I do want to appreciate that. And it was adorable.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, he was. Yes, he
No, it
was.
wasn't.
But
Well,
he
it
ate the
wasn't.
whole lollipop. He didn't
That-
save
No,
any.
he didn't. He
That
didn't
has
do
that has to be true, or none of the other stuff is true.
No, it's not true. I will not have you cast aspersions on me. I'm Mumbly out.
Mumbly's but was here for a lot longer than I thought. Really fun case. We can all agree all these segments are great. They all
Oh, I just love this
something.
movie.
I do kind of I was surprised that no one took School Bus, because I do think School Bus is sort of the one of the strongest segments in here, but it's hard to talk about it. So I can understand it not always wanting to be tackled, because it's a real fuck of a bummer. School Bus. Jeremy, Jason, what do you guys think of that segment?
Well, so the thing with School Bus, which I find really interesting, is that because the whole trick or treat was based in Ohio, and there's a town in Ohio, a real town called Helltown, and I wrote a book about it, and it's called Helltown. It was the third book in one of my series, and it was based on, because this place in Helltown, Ohio, had a number of just really freaky things happen, and one of them was a school bus in the woods. Like, that was one of the legends. If you type in like Helltown, Ohio school bus, it comes up. So I'm thinking that these guys maybe got that from what's on the internet, and it wasn't it wasn't how they sort of described it, but it was sort of the same thing. A school bus goes off and people died in it, and the ghost haunt it type thing. But I thought that was really sort of neat that they might have taken a real legend for that one. Is that real? Can you say real legend? They've taken like
Sure.
They've taken maybe a real event, if it happened. So I don't know, but it was pretty neat, because I did a lot of research for that book, and I've read a lot about Helltown, and I knew about the school bus and everything. So when I saw that in this Halloween movie based in Ohio, in the same place, I thought that was sort of neat.
I liked when the frogs came to Helltown.
Oh, boo.
The Roddy Piper movie, except reversed. Jason, what did you think of the school bus one? What made you not pick it?
No, actually, I really enjoyed it. You know what I enjoyed most about it, though, was actually the costumes. I mean, there was 8 of the most unique costumes The vampire maybe not so. Even the vampire was like this kind of like twisted, old looking, decrepit vampire. they docked those kids out, or whoever was actually under the costumes.
They were kids. I think we were reading the trivia, and I think they were differently abled kids, right, Schlenzo?
Differently able, but yes, they were.
I don't.
Kids.
Is that the cool term
They
anymore?
were kids with disabilities. Yes,
okay.
That's what I read. And apparently, they had a lot of fun.
Concises.
Well, I didn't say they were disabled. I said they were differently abled. So a little more open-minded than you.
Right. But, and I might take offense to it because they were chained to seats.
Well, their treatment. That's kind of what bugs me about that story is that they are incredibly sympathetic at the beginning. But then when they come back as zombies, they're basically hurting other innocent kids. I mean, those kids are jerks. They play pranks. Absolutely. They're mean to Rhonda. But kind of similar to Thurman Merman, they don't deserve to die for it.
The threshold for murder in this movie is remarkably low.
Yeah, exactly. And the only reason Brian Cox doesn't get killed is, besides giving him candy, is that he's got to get his other righteous comeuppance. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, basically everybody gets their comeuppance in this movie, except for Sam, because he's an innocent, and Rhonda. And so, yeah, that's what really sticks at me about the school bus is that they're innocents that get killed, and they don't just come back for revenge. They'll harm anyone they see, and that's kind of haunting and freaky to me. But Trick or Treat, one of the best anthology horror movies I think made, and we had a great lively discussion about it. Never did the triple threat before, so that was a fun format. we have to learn to get 4 or 5 jurors.
Well, we did have a man down, and Maynard bravely pitched hit so we could attempt.
That was impressive, dude.
Yes, yeah. we had another guest lined up that other obligations came up, so I did step in rather very too brave to not step in. But everyone did a really great job. I just know I've seen this movie like half a dozen times. So Jeremy, we'll go with you first. What have you been up to since we last talked to you? You talked to us last year for Baghead, and we haven't talked to you in a while.
So yeah, Kevin, who didn't make it, and Jason and I just participated in a book for Crystal Lake Publishing. They're doing a series of books, and ours was based around Halloween in October. And so we each wrote a story. So there's 3 sort of novellas in the book, and they were based around Halloween. It was really interesting with this story because in this story, I wrote it down, but I think it was Warren Valley. So in Trick or Treat, everything takes place in a place called Warren Valley. So the book that Jason and I and Kevin participated in took place. We needed like a communal place where all the stories could take place. So we used what was it called, Jason? Clifton Heights?
Clifton Heights, yeah.
Clifton Heights, which is something that Kevin made up, and that's his world. And we did the same thing. We sort of had 3 stories, and they all took place in Clifton Heights. We were going to try and make them a bit more interconnected, but it just didn't. It's a lot of work, and it just didn't really happen. But it was cool that we took 3 stories and we put them in the same town. And it was, in that sense, it was sort of like this movie. So I think there was a lot of stuff in common between this movie, and the book is called October's End by Crystal Lake Publishing, and
October's End.
So that's why we're on it on here now, just sort of plugging that.
And you missed us.
Get the word out, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh no,
we had so much fun last time.
Can I say one thing to that too? That the funny thing is, because last time we did this, we didn't have the video, so I thought there were a lot more people. I knew they're the jurors and stuff, but then you have like a couple of voices for a couple of people.
They're all me.
That's definitely us. All playing each other. We're a bit Monty Python-esque in that way. Jason, what have you been up to? And you're also involved in this book, but tell us a little bit more about yourself and what brought you here.
Well, I'm actually hoping that October's End. Jeremy, I don't think you'd be opposed to adding Sam in there somewhere to make it a trick or treat too. Sam just magically appears in all our stories. Since you guys like Sam so much, the principal could do it. All right, anyway. Well, I guess now he can't be. Spoiler alert. But anyway, he can come back from the dead.
His kid.
Oh, there you go. Why, that's been done before though.
Hey.
Oh, it's going to be done a ton of times.
Nothing new under the sun. Let's do it. But besides, I mean, for people that listen and aren't familiar with you, I mean, how long have you been writing? And
about 20 years now. I got 10 novels out there, a lot of novellas, a lot of short stories, a lot of Halloween stories. So it's a passion of mine. Next year I will have my own Halloween collection of all past stories and some new stories coming out.
Cool. Do you mainly focus on horror?
No, that's kind of a problem of mine. The horror, thriller, sci-fi, dark humor,
Romance.
Cool.
I love that.
A little romance. All right, good. You got to broaden your horizons. But no, that's cool. And October's End, I assume is already
I was
out.
kidding about the romance, just for record.
We know you were kidding. Wink, wink. We'll find your nom de plume that you write the romance novels under.
Erotica.
Oh, very good.
So October's End, I'm assuming, is already available.
Yeah, last week I think.
Nice, cool. They didn't wait for October's End, which was an interesting strategy.
We keep telling you your Halloween books got to come up before Halloween. Before.
No, you're right. You got to get out for the time. Now we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So since it's Hell on Reels Halloween season, what is a spooky or scary or horror type movie that you think people should see? Jeremy, we'll start with you.
So I was thinking about this because I forgot you asked this question.
We like that.
I would go with because I remember a number of years ago I watched it, not a number, like 3 or 4 years ago. But some of the Halloween movies have always been my favorite movies. I mean, they're just basic, simple. You can't really go wrong, and they sort of started the genre of the slasher flick. And then Rob Zombie came along, and I watched. I think my brother told me, he said, watch this movie, House of a Thousand Corpses.
Mm-hmm.
It was really sort of disturbing, and nothing. Like, watching horror doesn't really bother me, because if you write it, it doesn't bother you as much as I think it might bother somebody who doesn't think about that stuff all the time or know the plot things going into it or whatever. But I didn't really want to watch it for a while, but then I ended up watching it and I really liked it. And I watched all his movies since. So I've watched that one, and I can't remember the names, but he's done a bunch, and he always features his wife in all the movies.
Yeah, there's 31. There's what's that one in the middle?
Devil's Rejects.
Devil's Rejects
was really good.
And of course, The Munsters.
Oh boy.
What's that?
The Munsters is his new one. Maybe you should skip that.
I haven't seen that. So
the witch one was pretty bad too.
So, but I know he always puts his wife in. Her last name's Moon or something.
Sherry Moon Zombie.
Yeah, and I like her. She's actually a really good actress, but it throws me off because she's always in all of them, and I know she's not going to die because like she like that. That's just.
She does in Halloween. She does in Halloween.
Oh, does she? Okay,
right, Ryan.
Well, okay. This is again my point. So my point is, the movie you should watch is when he did the remake of Halloween. I know it got a fair bit of slack, like people were like, yeah. But I thought he did a good job. I thought he made it more violent and sort of visceral and just realish, in the sense that how it, just, it's a violent movie, and he made it pretty violent, and I liked it. So I think if you've seen the original Halloween, and you haven't seen this one, the remake that he did, I forget what year it is, but I think it's a good watch. He makes Michael Myers a pretty tough dude.
Yeah, Ryan, what year was it?
07.
2007.
Yes,
2007.
He knows.
Yep.
He knows.
I think I knew it too, because I was right there with Ryan. I think that one actually is It's treated pretty well, I think, among horror fans at least. Right,
Yeah.
Ryan? Have you heard? I think a lot of people like 2.
Yeah, people love 2.
People love 2. Halloween,
Really?
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. People really dig that.
That's the one I heard everyone hated.
Well, we're not talking to the right people then. Either you or us.
I haven't
Somebody's
seen either
talking
one,
to the.
so I can't talk.
Oh, you should. Oh, you must go. There's your homework, Ben. Go watch the Rob Zombie Halloweens because they are really cool and interesting. And I think Sherry Moon Zombie is pulled back to the right level in those.
Yeah, she's a good actress, and he's a great director. Like, funny for like a rock star to become like a director, but he does a good job. He knows his horror, he knows his stuff.
Yeah,
and he
absolutely.
doesn't skimp out, which I'm going to say the last point. He just takes that final step, which I really liked, because people would say, "Oh, you can't, don't do this. It's a tad too much," but he doesn't care, and that's what I like about his stuff. Like, he just does that extra little bit.
Love it. Yeah. I do like Rob Zombie. The movies are, I mean, if you like gore and you like that kind of gore horror stuff, but I think with Halloween, he got to the right cerebral, thoughtful space that he needed for as thoughtful as Rob Zombie's going to be. Jason, what is a spooky, scary horror in season type movie that you think people should see?
I was listening to a podcast recently where they dissed the sleeping bag kill and Friday the 13th
What?
part
Who would do
7.
that?
That is like the best kill in the whole franchise. But anyway, I don't know who would diss that, but somebody did.
Some
But
loser,
I mean,
probably.
I'm a huge Sam Raimi fan, hence probably the obscure reference to Dylan Baker as Kirk Connors and Dr. Connors and I think Spider-Man 2, but, Bailey in the movie, but whatever. I think Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, everybody talks about that. It's great movies, but one movie goes unwatched for some reason, Drag Me to Hell. And it's a fantastic film. I mean, Justin Long, you got Tusk,
Yes.
Super Creepers.
Tusk not guilty in this courtroom. Not guilty in this courtroom.
Fucking bullshit.
Don't start Ryan on it. He's not happy about it.
Ryan defended it though.
He did such a good job. We were all convinced. But continue, Jason. We just agreed with you very hard.
And Drag Me to Hell. Maybe even the movie Waiting, Justin Long was in. That was pretty good, but it wasn't horror. But Drag Me to Hell is. I forget the lady that puts the cards, like Mr. Baba Ganoush. I don't know what it really is, but something like that. And it's just a hilarious movie if you watch it. And the ending, it doesn't hold back, like you were saying, Jeremy. It's not gory or that visceral, but it's a movie called Drag Me to Hell. So
it delivers.
It
delivers on its promise, and it's kind of a remake of one of the better 50s horror movies, Curse of the Demon or Night of the Demon, depending on whether you see the UK version or not. But sort of
I gotta add Night of the Creeps and Slither, because those are two of my other favorite movies. You made me think of them. Sorry.
Absolutely.
No, those are all great picks.
Yeah. But I just to clarify for the audience, it wasn't this podcast you were listening to that dissed Friday the 13th Part 7, right?
Of course it was.
Oh, okay. I had no idea. I didn't know.
Sleeping bag kill is like one of the things I harped on.
I know, but listen, there's no way we're the only people who dissed that sleeping bag kill. I'm just saying, it's a wide world of podcasts. But excellent. And they should check out that episode too. Jason X does the sleeping bag kill better for sure.
They do. Hey, Maynard, you were the meat in this author sandwich we had tonight. What is your recommendation?
The many meats in this cultural stew. We barely scratched the surface of anthology horror here today. And for those of you who are interested in learning more on this valuable topic, might I suggest starting at your local public library? Or you could check out my recommendation this weekend, Tales of the Uncanny from 2020. It's a documentary on the history of anthology horror, featuring many notable personalities, including Joe Dante, Eli Roth, and even our very own beloved Graham Skipper. It features a pretty in-depth chronological breakdown of the genre, going all the way back to the silent era. And while I wish more time was spent on the anatomy of what defines anthology horror, what makes it effective, what makes it stick around and be so pervasive, it sure will introduce you to a lot of projects you may not have been privy to in the past. I really want to sit down and rewatch it with a pen and paper and just make note of all the horror anthology movies I haven't seen so that I can spend the rest of spooky season catching up. Tales of the Uncanny doesn't appear to be streaming anywhere at the moment, but you can rent or purchase it from Google Play or YouTube, or you can buy the 2-disc Blu-ray from Severin, which features 2 bonus anthology films, 1919's Eerie Tales and 1949's Unusual Tales, and you can support physical media. Ryan, that's you.
Okay.
You're gonna
that's me.
buy the
Okay.
Blu-ray. But
And
also,
my-
Ryan, tell us what your recommendations.
My recommendation
Thank you.
is my favorite monster movie ever, James Whale's 1935 masterpiece, Bride of Frankenstein. It's aesthetically gorgeous, as Whale was known for. It's deeply funny and tremendously empathetic toward one of its 2 titular creatures, not both of them, just one. Carried through by my vote for Boris Karloff's finest performance, bar none. It's something that I find myself turning on when I'm at a low ebb or in a bad headspace, and it never fails to lift my spirits, which is strange considering how the movie ends. Bride of Frankenstein is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel and Tubi, but you should pick up the amazing 4K set that Universal just put out, and like Rob, help keep physical media alive.
Now, I don't want to be that guy, but shouldn't it be called The Bride of Frankenstein's Monster?
You are
being that guy. I hate to break it to you.
You are. I hate to break it, but I'm shocked that you didn't already recommend. Like, I feel this got recommended and it would have been by you. But I'm checking the recommendations of Justice Letterbox, and
No, it's not on there.
It's
he's
not
right.
on there. I am.
Oh, wow.
This is my jaw coming up from the floor. Very, very surprised. But it's good to know that the Bride of Frankenstein, she's a strong, independent woman. Big Bun, what is your recommendation?
Well, first, just so everyone knows, the other 2 segments will be Sentenced to Movie Hell, where they'll be straddled by beautiful young women until dead, is the official.
Yes, that was the verdict. I was so proud of it, and I was like, well, too bad we won't be able to use it because no way Surprise Party's winning. But boom, what a surprise. Anyway.
I'm gonna recommend one of my favorite J horrors that, like Ryan, I'm honestly surprised it took me this long to get to. But it too has a few different narratives that sort of tie together into a single haunt. You should check out Ju-on the Grudge. Have you ever stood in a place and just knew that something bad happened there? You don't know what, you don't know when, but there's a heaviness in the place, like a scar.
Yeah, I've been to public bathrooms before. Man.
Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Well, Ju-on tells that story from a few different people who were viciously murdered in a house, and that creates such a wound. We follow a few different stories of various people who set foot into a house from a family, from a caretaker to a family that moved in to a sister that's checking in on all of them, all becoming cursed and stalked by vengeful ghosts simply for setting foot in the house. In a lot of ways, it's a really back to basics sort of horror story. Or a ghost story, but it takes those bare elements and amplifies them. A good ghost story has a bit of mystery, plenty of atmosphere, and a constant sense of dread. And those are the 3 elements that are the main ingredients. It didn't have to have a big budget of a Hollywood film, but it does a lot with a little. We don't need a CGI monster lurking about. Waking up and seeing a pale, half-naked kid just staring at you works just as well, if not better. You can head on over to Freevee or rent it from your streaming platform of choice to check it out.
I don't know why you had to phrase it.
I like that one. That was a good movie.
It is. Yeah.
And the first American remakes is admirable enough. I think
I like it. Yeah.
It's not as good as like The Ring American version, but
no, and that's why people didn't like it, because The Ring was Americanized and it was like more accessible to us, where The Grudge is still kind of Japanese and inaccessible.
Yeah. Then for some reason they remade it again.
No, that's sort of a like a boot con or whatever you want to call it. It's
boot con. Boot con.
Oh, jeez.
The reboot retcon, the boot con. I love it. Thank you for that callback. Schlenzo, why don't you send us on home with whatever horrible schlock you've been filling your brain with lately?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it because you see, my recommendation is going to give you
recommendation.
But this one's not quite a hacker because
you're right.
Okay, so it's going to give you the willies because I'm recommending the willies. So in keeping with the theme of horror anthologies that we have going on tonight, this story is about 3 cousins hanging out in their backyard camping, telling scary stories. The 2 main stories are about a monster that lives in a school bathroom, speaking of bathrooms earlier, and a troubled child that tortures flies. the troubled child is actually the same guy who played Donkey Lips in Salute Your Shorts. So it was really cool seeing him in something else when I was a kid. The movie
That
came
should
out.
let you know the quality of film you're talking.
Hey,
about.
it's got Samwise Gamgee in it as well. He's the guy telling the story.
Sean Astin.
Yeah, Sean Astin, right? And anyway, I'm gonna be the first to tell you, it's not a particularly special movie, but the practical effects of the bathroom monster are very memorable. It's a nice.
That's the tag.
It's so true though. I mean, Maynard, look this guy up. You'll love it. This is a nice and light entry in the horror anthology canon. Most kids could definitely handle it. I remember my father rented it for us when we were fairly young and we enjoyed watching it, you know. So if you need a family feature for this Halloween, look no further.
I assume it's on YouTube, isn't it?
I think it's on YouTube. You could actually watch a VHS rip on Archive where they actually do tracking during one of the stories. So you get the little wave. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, excellent. Well, now I know what we'll be watching our next movie night then.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
But with that, we are all at a show, but we want to thank our guests, Jeremy Bates and Jason Parent, for joining us. Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having us.
And the name of the book one more time?
October's End.
October's End. I love it.
By Crystal Lake Publishing.
There you go. We will find it everywhere books are available, at least online. All right, I'm just got to be somewhere. So definitely check those out, and check out all the horror anthology movies that you can this spooky season. I think horror anthologies are some of my favorite horror movies. So I'm glad we got to talk about some of them. And we hope that everyone will join us again as well next time as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it,
Rhonda.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.